I had this really weird dream last night. Did you? That you'd posted a reel and like the sound was like really off. And like my voice was really loud and yours was really quiet. And then at one point in the recording, and then it flipped and mine was really quiet and yours was really loud. And I was like, how have we put this out? Like, why is the sound like that? And I was trying to fix the sound and I was living in this big, like Georgian house, where they've got 3 floors.
Yeah, yeah.
And someone was coming to view the house, to buy the house. No idea why. And I had this big van outside and I was sat in the van trying to alter the reel. And the people who were coming to view the house to buy it were like trying to get in the house. And it was like, no, I'm just trying to alter the sound before I go. It
That's where your priorities lie. I like that.
was like really like mundane, but weird. But those kind of dreams where it's like actually a really mundane thing. I'm just in a car trying to alter a reel because the sound was wrong.
But it's the other things going on as well outside of that that make things feel a bit weird, don't they?
Yeah, and like I don't have a van. I don't own a house. I'm not selling a house. I don't have a Georgian house.
I always wonder with certain dreams like that because I'm like, where is my brain going at night?
Yeah, interesting. It's probably because I went to sleep last night thinking about, oh, okay, these are the topics we're going to talk about tomorrow. So the podcast was in my
Mm-hmm.
head before I went to
Mm-hmm.
sleep. Don't know why that explains the rest of it. But have you had any weird dreams recently?
I always dream. I'm forever waking up and like, listen to this dream that I had. My twin sister has the most outlandish dreams and they
Really?
never make any sense, but she has to tell you every minute detail. I mean, bless her. And you're like, okay, if it didn't make sense to you, it's definitely not going to make sense to me. I like those
Funny.
dreams when they feel really real, don't they? And you wake up with the feelings, don't you?
Yeah.
I love dreams like
I like those dreams where, see, I tend to go through phases where I don't dream much at all. And then I'll have quite a lot of dreams all like within a week
hmm
or two. I would like those dreams. They're called lucid dreams, where you're dreaming and then you wake up. But you know when you're in that phase between like you're not quite asleep and you're not quite
Yeah.
awake in that middle bit, and you can feel that you're lying in bed and you can feel like this world around you, but you're still in the dream and you can control it a little bit.
Yes.
I love those kind
Yeah.
of dreams.
I don't have them often enough.
Yeah, neither do I. Yeah. We're not talking about dreams today.
That would probably be quite a cool episode. It would make no sense to anyone in our target audience, but anyway.
Today we're talking about not feeling good enough or not feeling enough. I guess that's going to tie into like self-worth and we're going to see where the conversation goes. That's what we're leading with today.
Yeah.
Whose idea was it, this topic?
It was mine. Because I'm really interested about this because when I said to you, can we do it? I think your response was like, obviously, yes. But also, it seems like it's more resonant for me. You were like, I don't know if I fully relate to that feeling. So I'm really interested about that because this is a feeling that it feels like it's ingrained in my being. Like at my core, this is a feeling that I always come back to. So I'm so interested to understand what it's like for someone who doesn't live like that.
Actually, no, I do resonate with this topic. So I don't know. Maybe I think what I was meaning at the time was there was another topic we did or we were
Mhm.
planning on doing, which I can't remember which one it was. And the reason I said I don't know if I'd have a lot to say about this was because I saw like overlap in the two topics. So I was like, oh, if I talk about that topic, I might touch on not feeling good enough. So if we do topic, an episode solely on not feeling good, enough, I
Mhm.
don't know if I'll have extra to say. Not that I don't resonate with it, record straight.
I was like, wow, how do you live like that? What's that like?
I'm sorry, I'm going to disappoint you in this episode.
So I'm curious to know how you experience this actually, how it comes up for you in your life today as someone who is recovered from disordered eating and as someone who is very aware of their perfectionistic traits and all this sort of thing, how it shows up for you now. Because I think I had the idea that it was something that I projected it through my eating disorder. It manifested through my eating disorder, and I projected it onto my body, this feeling of not being good enough. And I think I thought that when I recovered, I would no longer feel like that I would never experience that feeling. And I always feel it's such a heavy feeling for me, but it's such a familiar feeling.
Yeah.
And I do obviously still experience that feeling today, and I'm still navigating within that. So I'm curious to know how it shows up for you in your day to day now.
So when I was living with eating disorder, it definitely showed up around like my body. Okay. That was the main way. And we can talk about that in a bit more detail because I guess that will be helpful for people to hear. And now it doesn't really show up around my body, apart from maybe when I'm premenstrual. Some of those thoughts around my body do come up then. But I'm also very aware this is something that I'm going to think and feel for these few days or maybe a week max before my period. And then once my period comes, passes. So it isn't like a permanent kind of state with my body now. The main way I see it shows up is in kind of academic performance because I'm studying like a master's to be a therapist. And that's where I started to notice, oh, okay, here it is again, this feeling of not being good enough. And this need to feel like I need to prove myself in some way and do as best I can in assignments and try and get like the highest grade and always feeling, oh, I should maybe be doing more. Like I should be studying more. I should be reading more. Or if I'm with a client, is there anything like I could be doing better? Or should I be doing more with the client? Or is this enough? And I would describe the self not feeling good enough for me shows up as like self-doubt.
Yeah.
And that I saw that definitely move from my body onto like my career and my
Mm.
academic performance as well. And I would say that I feel like that's lessened more as I go through the training and I do more of the self-reflection work and realize actually that importance that I put on grades and being perfect actually is a hinder to myself as a counselor because it's not about being perfect. It's about being real and being human. But I do definitely slip into that because there's so much to learn and there's so many theories to learn. And I'm doing an integrative course. So it's about you as a trainee, just developing your own philosophy and approach to counseling. It's not like I'm not doing a course where you get taught exactly what to do. We get given lots of theories and approaches, and it's like you pick what works for you and create your own bespoke way of working, which I am learning to embrace more now because I see the freedom in that and the expression in that. And that's nice. But at the beginning, that was really scary because so actually there isn't a perfect or right way of me doing this now. I can't go, okay, that's what I need to do. I'll do that. And I can ensure that there's no self-doubt there. There's no one's going to question it or feel different. I can make sure that I'm doing things the right way to be seen and get approval from other people. But it's not like that. And now I'm starting to embrace that and actually enjoy it. But that's where it shows up for me now.
I didn't realize your course was like that.
Mm.
And I think I would have felt exactly the same as you. I need to have markers, and then I need to tick those markers, and then I can feel like it's fine because I've got all of this. So that means that I'm good enough. I can do this. I'm capable of this.
Yeah.
Whereas it's
Yeah.
really letting you trust your own instinct and develop on that.
Yeah. Obviously the theories we're drawing on are sound theories. It's which theory do you resonate with and which one are you going to draw upon? Because you can't draw upon all of them. And it's encouraging you to think critically about all the different theories for you to decide what resonates with you and why and explain that critically. So it's really moving away from that kind of black or white binary way of thinking. It's very nuanced, very gray area. It's like independent thinking, critical thinking. And it's one of the reasons I wanted to do the course because I really wanted to develop those skills in myself. But now I'm in second year. I can see in the first year, there was definitely, I had more fear around expressing my thoughts on something. And there was less like a kind of like, it's very weird. It's going to sound paradoxical because I feel like I have more self-assuredness now and lean more into the grey area, which feels like a paradox, right? That doesn't seem like
Mm,
it makes sense, does it?
no.
But more in the sense of, okay, this is more what my approach is, and this is why this resonates with me, and this is like my philosophy. And it's okay to say that. I feel moving away from the black or white, because black or white is very like there's right or wrong.
Mm,
And that made me then scared to express my opinion, because if I express my opinion, it's either going to be right and approved of, or it's going to be wrong. And that feels
yeah.
like scary, humiliating. Whereas now I'm like, there isn't a right or wrong. It's just different ways of doing things, which then in itself has made me more able to go, actually, this is what I think, because that's not right or wrong. And what you think is this, and that's not right or wrong either. It's just different.
Wow. Yeah. And so that's feeling more like freeing for you now.
Yeah, it is.
It was
Mm,
interesting when you were talking about the beginning of your studies, like wanting to do more, that like seeking behavior. If
mm,
I can just get to this, then I will feel this, which, as we'll go into, really shows up within, I think, body image predominantly. If I can
mhm,
just look like this, or if I can just eat like this, if I could just have this control and sort this out, then I would reach this end point.
mm.
Um, but I think when you get stuck in that, there's always the seeking for more, isn't there? In the
Yeah.
attempts to feel this feeling. Because, as I say, it's something that I still experience now in my life, not
Mhm,
as much as I used to. And I would also say that when I experience it, it doesn't necessarily feel like it has the same weight as it used
mhm.
to. It can be a bit more fleeting. I'm
Y-
more aware of it. I can recognize that I'm feeling a certain way, but it's probably not going to be the way I'm going to feel forever. I would say that very similar to you, it shows up for me more like career based in
mhm,
my ability to do. And if I'm not careful, I will keep my world very small
mm.
to avoid that feeling of not feeling good enough. I would
Oh, okay.
limit what I would do. I wouldn't push myself out of my comfort zone. I would stay in something that I didn't enjoy because I didn't think I'd be capable of doing other things, or that feels like too vulnerable to put myself in that position because then I'm opening myself up to those feelings. But I also would say that it can show up sometimes in my relationship.
Okay.
I would say it used to show up in the beginning of my relationship. But sometimes I wonder, I don't know whether you experience it like this, but I feel it in my stomach when I feel that not good enough feeling. And when I feel like that, my brain will actively seek out all the other areas in my life in which I don't feel good enough. So let's not just have the one area, let's add five more so that you feel even worse about yourself. So let's just really bury ourselves in it.
Yeah.
And that's when in the past I would have gone to a binge.
Okay. And the binge would have, like, what role would the binge have served in that for you?
It would have been pushing those feelings down because it's such an icky feeling. Not good enough. I feel it in the pit of my stomach, makes me want to just not be seen. And
Mm,
so the initial reaction, I'd say probably the kind of reactive behavior would be the binge, followed by heavy restriction.
mm,
Obviously, I don't do that now, but I think the message I'm trying to land on, I'm just going 8 different ways to get there, is now it's not about the feeling necessarily itself. It's about the way in which I cope with it now versus the way
yeah.
I used to.
So the feeling still comes
Mm,
up in different areas of life, but it's how you relate to that feeling, how you respond to it
yeah.
is different. And I can relate to that actually, because I feel like over the last few years, you know, what you're saying, you make your world small
Mm,
because you like don't think you're good enough to do something. I think a lot of like my 20s, a lot of my 20s were more consumed with body image and food. I didn't have any kind of career focus during that time because it was just not something I ever thought of for myself. Like a lot of people describing now as quite career focused. And it's quite funny because in my early 20s, like you would have never said that about me at all. It was just not something that I ever thought of. And some of that's probably partly to do with age. Probably some of that is partly to do with the fact that my attention was so much on my body image that it was blocking off ability to look at other things. But also part of that was like I never actually, I didn't see myself having a career or doing anything that I felt was adding meaning to the world because I didn't think like I had enough to offer. So that I guess is feeling like I wasn't enough to be able to have kind of a successful career or put something out in the world that may have meaning.
Yeah. It's interesting that you word it like that because when you were speaking, what comes into my head is the podcast.
Yeah, yeah. I was going to ask you about that actually and say like, how does the podcast like for you tapped into this topic? I guess it taps into this topic. Has not
Oh,
seemed
yeah.
good enough shown up for you or?
There can be certain episodes, and we both have this with our own episodes, that we will like procrastinate editing because I just know I'm not
Mhm.
going to like it. Or I'll have episodes where I'm stop starting. I'm like, how am I only 20 minutes into this episode? I can't edit another 40 minutes. It's not going to happen. I'm bracing myself. It really highlights parts of myself that not that I don't like about myself, but things that make that I'm like, I wish I could maybe change that, but it also just is me. I ramble. I feel like I don't always make sense. I feel like I bounce from topic to topic because as I start talking about something, I think of something else. And then also the comparison piece can come in with Becca and her bow tying of eloquently putting everything together. But I will say that over time, I've become far stricter with editing. And that I'm like, it's fine. This is you. If
Mhm.
people don't want to listen to it and they don't like it, that's absolutely fine. It's okay. You don't have to be everyone's cup of tea. Now, as I say that, there is a little part of me inside that's screaming, going, yes, you do. Be everyone's cup of tea. Make sure everyone likes you. But it has forced me to really
Mhm.
confront myself. Because even though we've had a few check-ins over all this time working together with our lives going in different ways and coming back to the podcast, and I always come back to like, I think it's good for me to be out of my comfort zone and to challenge myself in these ways in a space
Mhm.
that feels quite safe to do so. What about you?
I think it's given me what I've noticed is as I've got older, I have challenged myself to do things which are more outside my comfort zone. So it in the past, if I'd had an idea, I would have maybe held back a little bit, or I might have gone for it, but there wouldn't have really been like a true belief in myself. And now I do notice that there's actually I'm more willing to like push myself outside my comfort zone and run with that and actually believe in myself. Do you know what? Like if this doesn't work out, that's not a reflection of me. That's not the end of the world. Like just go for it basically. And that the podcast has been part of that. And I would say it has helped me to be more to have more like confidence again in expressing myself and my thoughts and my opinions, whilst also holding more space for like other opinions as well and being like, there's actual like I can had this experience and that's led me to think and feel this way about this topic. But then it's really interesting to hear maybe another perspective on that. And neither again is right or wrong. It's not, well, if I say this and you say something different, then gosh, I must be wrong here. And I'm less than. It's not that. It's like we are just different. And
Yeah.
I think it's really helped me with that for sure.
Yes, because I think back to how I felt growing up in my adolescence and really struggling with food and how I felt about myself and feeling very alone and isolated and how powerful it is. I don't think it's ever not effective to hear someone put into words the way that you feel as their own experience
Yeah.
and be like, that's exactly how I feel. So it's that vulnerability of putting it out there. And even if just one person hears it and feels that little bit of comfort, I'm not the only one that
Hmm.
feels this way about myself. And also in a way that I have to remind myself that I'm not expected to have all the answers to everything as
Yeah.
well. I think that ties in with not being good enough and coming through in this podcast. I don't have to present myself in a way that is going to cover all the bases. Like, we can talk of our own experiences and we can hold space for other people's, but it's taking the pressure off of myself to feel like it has to be done in a way that's perfect.
Perfectionism is massively tied into not feeling good enough, because if you can be quote unquote perfect, you're trying to remove any room for feedback or criticism or nuance, aren't you? Because that feels too threatening and it feels too scary. But it also is very inhuman. Like, we are human, we're gonna mess up. Actually, that's like the good stuff, really. That's where you really connect with someone, when you can see their humanity
Yes.
and you can see your humanity in each other. And there's like a vulnerability between the two of you. That's where you really develop some kind of connection. And when you don't feel good enough and you then move into perfectionism and trying to perfect whatever area it is in your life that you've pushed that onto, it really does shut down opportunity to
Mhm.
deeply connect with someone.
Yeah, it does.
Mm.
Yeah, you're so right.
How would you, so in terms of not feeling good enough, you say it's like something that you've really deeply felt, like it's in the pit of your stomach. And you were like, I can't imagine life not feeling like that. When you were like, where do you think that actually comes from for you? What's your understanding of like why you have that feeling, or why that then got pushed onto food? Because I have an understanding of where that came from for me and where it got put onto food. So I'm curious about yours.
I'm also actually still somewhat unpacking this because I think it's
Mm.
actually far more deep rooted than I thought it was.
Mm.
But I would say that, and I'm just going to try and make sense of it.
I'll come in with a bow.
Thank goodness, Becca to the rescue.
Sure.
Okay, I'm trying to think how the best way, because I think it showed up different. It manifested differently through body and then as a result through food. Because the not good enough piece for me relates to feeling small and also not wanting to be seen. Because there's a fear of exposure that's tied in within this. And I think I've said it on this podcast before. Obviously, I have a twin sister and she's the opposite to me and she's very like out there. She's happy to be the center of a room. I'm perfectly happy to not be that person. So I quite naturally am happy in the background. That doesn't feel like suppression to me. That feels natural. I have like 8 different ways I want to say it. I'm like trying to merge it so that I don't do my rambling thing. Although I can make sense of it, it's not black and white. That's probably where I'm
Yeah.
struggling with it. There's intersections that are going on and there's a bit here and there's a bit there. So I think although a part of me was okay with being in the background, I think there was a part of me that did want to be noticed and did want to be recognized as myself outside of being a twin. So a lot of those feelings, I think I projected it onto my body and I felt like if my body could look a certain way, then I would feel like I was enough and I wouldn't need other people to see that in me. I could see it for myself. And then obviously as a result of trying to control and change my body, that resulted in the control of food, which became tighter and tighter to the point where from a biological standpoint, like your body just fights back. But I always found myself quite confused because I would use binging and restriction quite interchangeably. And I felt like I used them to express the same feelings, which always
Mm.
confused me because
That's interesting.
when I was feeling shame and when I was feeling like I wasn't good enough and I just needed to hide and I just felt like I was like, could just swallow myself whole, I would, depending on the day, that would either result in the restriction because you're not allowed food, because you will feel hungry, because you will feel empty, this like nothingness side of things. But it would also show up through the binging with eating as a way of, as I said earlier, trying to push those feelings down because they are such heavy, like feelings that feel like you can barely breathe. Or at least for me, it felt like I couldn't come up for air.
Yeah.
And so food would come in and I would eat and eat and eat, probably to numb, definitely to distract, but also in some ways as punishment to myself. if I was binging as a result of feeling not good enough, coming out of the binge the following days always felt so panicky for me because it doesn't feel safe to be seen. I don't want to be seen, but you're eating food in a way that's going to make you bigger and it's going to feel more exposing. And it felt like I was trying to hide. And every time I binged, I was like revealing a piece of me that I was like, no, I need to stay hidden in my own little thing. And every time I binged, that you're opening a gap here and people are seeing you.
Yeah. This is so fascinating because I was thinking about like a restriction and binging from the perspective of like self-worth and not feeling good enough and stuff like this. And the angle I came at it from is restriction for me feels like the ultimate act of saying you're not good enough because eating is like a absolute fundamental need that we have as a human. And if you're going to deny that from yourself, for me, that really feels like the ultimate of, yeah, you're not enough. Like you don't even deserve food. You don't even deserve enough nourishment, right?
Yeah.
Um, and then I see the binging as this part that jumps in and is, no, but you do deserve food. Like you deserve to nourish that your body. You deserve to have fuel. So it almost like the binging is coming in as this part to fight to show that you are like good enough and you are worthy and you deserve that. That's how I perceive it. But it's really interesting because you're saying the binging came in for you and it felt like it was saying, I'm going to expose you. But I'm wondering
Yes.
if actually like it's trying to expose you because it's saying you deserve to be seen.
It's weird because when you talk about it like that, I'm thinking the restriction for me, withholding food in the moment felt my way of empowering myself. It felt like my way of
Yeah.
being like, you don't need this. You've got
Mm,
this. You don't need anything. You don't need
yeah.
food. Food doesn't control you. You're better than this.
So
That's just
fascinating.
like opposite to what you're saying.
Yeah. I can get that perspective a little bit because when I restricted, it did make me feel powerful to some extent and made like tying into body image, it made me think, okay, yeah, so my body is going to look this way because of restrictions, then I'm going to get like approval from other people, blah, blah, blah. So in that sense, it felt like powerful, but it wasn't really because it wasn't really true approval. It was me restricting my body to look a certain way. So
Yes.
it didn't feel like, if you really look at it, it's not really empowering. It was like an
Absolutely.
illusion of empowerment.
Yes.
Yeah.
Because it works until it doesn't work.
Yeah. And
It,
also, if you are being accepted for something that's you're really having to try hard to be and alter yourself to be, then it's still not true, authentic acceptance for who you actually are, is it?
yes, exactly. It's coming back to that conditional worthiness rather than innate. And I think that's a lot of the work, isn't it?
Yeah.
When I first started recovery and the idea of having to untangle where my self-worth was and where my identity lied and really coming head on to this feeling of not feeling good enough, it's so scary. I felt like I was letting go of the only thing that was keeping me up. The only thing that would perhaps lead me to this thing that I was seeking, which I don't know, was this sense of self, I guess. I just was doing it in the wrong way. And so it's that the irony that the very thing that you think is what you need to keep control and to access all these things is the very thing that's actually keeping you further away from them. And you just don't feel like that when you're in it,
Yeah. Yeah.
looking for other means of accessing these things through like creativity and other areas of life, and how alien that feels. Because it feels like you're trying to pick up all you've ever known and trying to just plop it somewhere else, isn't it?
Is it in recovery?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you were trying to explore your self worth in other areas
Mm.
beyond your body.
Yes. I remember one of my favorite practices that I still remind myself of today is like letting something be okay as it is and seeking that out in my world as a practice, because I can be very black or white in many things that I do. And so the practice of like, in what ways can I do things that's just enough?
Yeah. Or it just is.
Yeah.
Because I see like when we do things and okay, this is good enough or this is not good enough or this is right, wrong, whatever you want to use it. It feels for me like I'm almost saying you're not good enough or
Mm.
you are good enough or you're right or you're wrong. That's how I see it. I don't know if I've worded that very well, but when I'm putting kind of that value of worth on how I do something, it's representing how I feel about myself. Whereas actually, if what I put out there just is, then I'm just putting myself out there as I am, rather than with a good or bad or good enough label to it.
The way that you've relayed that is it's like when you have this not good enough, when you're perhaps going into this comparison piece, it's like, in whose eyes am I not good enough? Who's my audience here?
Yeah.
Where's the barometer? Do you know what I mean? Where am I gauging this?
So for me, it feels like if I do something and I view that thing I'm doing as, oh, this is good enough or this isn't
Mm,
good enough, for me, that feels like it's not really about the thing I'm doing. It's about me and how I view myself
mm,
as good enough or not good enough. So actually, if I start to move away from that in the work I produce or how I show up, in the world, it's again, it's not really about what I've done. It's about
mm.
me showing up and saying, I just am like as I
Yeah,
am. It's
yeah,
not like there's no barometer to me. It's just me.
yes. It's like that self-trust that you touched on earlier.
Yeah. I think big part of this with self-worth, I see for me, is moving away from that. And I think you've touched on this a bit today, is moving away from that external locus of evaluation. So that external kind of, I'm going to get my self-worth from what others think about me, moving more towards, I actually have that self-trust and self-assuredness to know that I am like enough just as I am. I'm not going to be
Mhm.
perfect. I'm not always going to get it right, but that in itself is fine. I'm enough. And that is a really hard shift to make. And I don't want to give the illusion that like I always like that. I think it's very hard for anyone to always be like that because we are often raised, we're social creatures, right? So being
Mm,
accepted and having approval of others and belonging is important. So I don't think we can ever entirely move away from not caring what people think at all.
no.
I don't think that's realistic. And I think it's about learning to try and spend more time in the place of like self assuredness and not being too worried about what other people think or to putting our worth on it. To be like, that's okay if they don't agree with this or they don't see this in the same way as me. That's all right. It doesn't actually change me as fundamentally as a person.
Yes, because I do this with my mother. She came over yesterday and she wanted to show me this new coat that she's bought. She was like, I want to know if you like it, because if you don't, I'll take it back. I was like,
Mhm.
Mum, do you like the coat? Yeah, but I want to see what you think. Okay, but if you like the coat, can that be enough for you to keep it? Does what I think actually matter? Can you be okay with people maybe not liking your coat? If anyone's listening and thinking this is a really intense conversation over a coat, this happens a lot. Over things that aren't just a coat. And it's a practice that I'm not good at. Stuart's very good at. He's okay if people don't have a different thought of him that maybe isn't accurate. That kind of thing will keep me awake at night. If someone has an opinion of me, I'm like, that's not accurate. I don't like that. That feels, it's wrong. I don't like it. He can
Into
separate
feeling
from that.
misunderstood, doesn't it? Mm.
Yes. Yes. I can't cope. He can manage that. And it's something that I am trying to integrate in my own world of, can I be okay with someone having this opinion, or with me thinking that this is good enough and someone else maybe thinking it's not? Can I be okay with that? Yes, I think I can. It may be a little bit uncomfortable. Make me want to rip my skin off at times, but like, it's a practice of something. And let me tell you though, and I do agree with you, Becca, the goal isn't to get to a point where you never care, because I think we do. We're, as you said, we're human beings. It's wired into us. But it's so freeing when you're able to do it far less. Like when
Yeah.
you are able to just stay in your own view of what feels right for you.
Yeah. And also, I guess, partly to think, looking at whose opinion does matter to me. So
Mm.
perhaps like my partner's opinion is really quite important to me on this, whatever this matter is, because there's someone that whose opinion I value, someone who's close to me, who knows me deeply. Whereas someone on the internet, I don't know who they are.
Mm.
So if they are going to criticize or shout at, call me out on something, okay, that feels really uncomfortable. But actually, they don't know me in the full sense to be able to draw that conclusion. Maybe we can engage in a conversation about that if they want to, but if they're not willing to that, then that's fine. Like they can have their opinion. It's really interesting because this isn't actually something I thought of prior to this episode, but it's making me think now. Like we talk about our experiences of an eating disorder and our lives here, and we talk about it from our perspectives, but that's just how we see it. How other people who have spent our lives with us may perceive us growing up or in our teens or 20s or whatever, they may perceive us very different. And I remember seeing this quote somewhere ages ago, which basically said, in someone's story, you are the villain. And I was like, that's actually so true. I know for a fact that to some people from like my past, I am definitely a villain in their
Mm-hmm.
eyes. And they will perceive me very differently to how I perceive myself and how you will perceive me because of those experiences in the past. And really, we can't actually make anyone like, we can't control how people think about us. And we can't make sure that everybody is going to see us as the way we want them to see us all the time.
Yeah.
So it's just not, it's not going to happen because we're all coming at it from different life experiences. And so we have to learn to be like, I'm okay with how I see myself.
Yes.
And
And this is why I think I can be very particular on the people I surround myself with, who
mm,
my circle is, because
yeah,
it's important to me that I surround myself with people who will call me out and help me see myself in a way that I wouldn't necessarily always see myself, but
mhm,
also people who I feel safe with and who I feel are accepting of me. I can't do all the noise. We have
mm,
enough in the online space with people who don't know you having opinions of you and contributing to the way that you feel about yourself. I don't need it in my
yeah,
day-to-day life as well.
yeah. Unless you're online and you want to write something nice, then we'll take that.
Yeah, that's allowed. We'll allow that.
Mm. It was interesting for me in my recovery because I feel like a moment for me where I really noticed how much of my self-worth was attached to my body was when, and I think I might have mentioned this previously in an earlier episode, was when I did like the pie chart. It's a CBT pie chart exercise. And it's like you have a pie chart and you mark off how much of that pie chart you get your self-worth from. So it could be from like friends, being a good friend. It could be from your career, having a successful career, or it could be from like having a meaningful career or whatever. You get to create it however you want. And I imagine if I drew my pie chart now to how I drew it when I was in recovery, which when would it have been? I did it probably about 6 years ago. It would be hugely different now. I actually do that. It'd be fun exercise.
Yeah.
And this is where I really stepped back and was like, whoa, like so much of my self-worth is actually on how I look. Okay. What was really jarring about this was if someone had said, what do you value in life? What's important for you? I would have said things like, yeah, being like a good friend and being a good sibling and like my family. And I would have said all of these things. But actually, when I drew the pie chart and got honest about where my self-worth was coming from, it wasn't reflecting that. It was reflecting like having a nice body. Do I look fuckable? Like all this kind of stuff. Right. And that was very jarring for me because it made me realize actually what I say I is important to me in life and what I'm actually the way I'm living my life, they are very misaligned. There's an incongruence there between the two. And then part of it was, okay, how can I live more in congruence with what I actually say I value? Like what is important for me? what do I value? And if that's what I truly value, then why am I focusing all my attention here instead? And unpacking that, because it's not as simple as just changing it. You might be like, okay, well, actually, let's get curious about why am I putting all my attention on this if I'm saying it's not important? Because there must be some reason. Let's try and understand that without judgment.
So for you, realizing that actually so much of your value was tied into appearance and the way that you looked and the way other people were perceiving your body as well.
Yeah.
I wholeheartedly agree with that. The only thing that was different is I, for a very long time, had no desire to want to change that.
Mhm.
I was quite content there.
Yeah.
I think because it gave me the illusion of control, but it also gave me a focus. It was the
Mhm.
promise of something. I think that was very distracting for me.
Yeah. What
And
do you feel it was the promise of?
I think I thought that the way that I looked was the door for everything. So if I looked a
Mm.
certain way, then people would want to connect with me and I would be able to have relationships, I would have better friendships, I would have more career opportunities. I felt like this is the starting point. If I nail this, then everything else becomes available to me. And to an extent, I don't think that's necessarily wrong. I think in our world there is pretty privilege, is there not? That's not me saying that I have pretty privilege, by the way. That's not me being like, but there is, we
No, but
can't,
you do have pretty privilege to some extent.
it's the thing, we can't deny that there are situations where that's very much a real thing. But I do think all of this it was an armor for me.
Yeah. Yeah.
There was a safety net in the body looking a certain way. That was a buffer for me. There was a way of keeping people at arm's length, really.
Yeah. Such a paradox, isn't it? It's the door that's going to open me up to be able to have acceptance and approval, but also it feels like I'm keeping you slightly away from me.
Yes.
So for me, with where this feeling of not feeling good enough came from for me and why it
Yes.
got put onto my body, I think it's different to yours because for me, it felt like actually my body was all I had to offer. I was talking about how I never had a career goal. It was never something that I was focused on because I didn't actually see myself as any more than just someone that looked a certain way. And I think part of that does speak to, how women are viewed in society. We are very much like sexualized and objectified and seen as commodities
Mm.
in our society. But I remember growing up being explicitly told, and it's something that I've had to really work through, not just in body image, but actually less so in body image, more now that I've gone through recovery and actually going back to what we said at the start, that actually this feeling of not good enough comes up in like career and comes up in studies, like academic studies, is that I remember always being told, like, you'll always be good for whatever you do in life, but you'll never be great. And that was what I was explicitly told. And that I hear that like in the back of my head a lot when I go to do things. And I have to push through that and say, that was one person's opinion. Actually, you can choose to believe that and actually completely identify with that. And you won't challenge yourself or push yourself or really see how far you can go. Or you can acknowledge that's something that you've been told and still go for it. I got told that a lot growing up. And then at the same time was often told, I often heard, I have two brothers. So I'm the only girl. I'm like a middle child and the only girl in the family. And my older brother was often referred to as like the clever one, the sensible one, the clever one. My younger brother was referred to as like the funny one. He like got the personality. So my older brother got the brains, my younger brother got the personality, and I often got told I got the looks, like was what was said to me. And it was, I guess, from a very young age, feeling like, okay, that's my role and that's what I have to offer. It's not personality, it's not intelligence, it's looks. And then as I got older and turned into, I remember it was like 13. I was 13 years old when I started to get, which is quite disgusting, male attention, like not even just from like boys at school, but like actual adults. And that was like praised and it was like encouraged and it was recognized. And actually, for the first time, I was like, I'm getting kind of recognition here. I'm getting kind of acceptance, approval. So yeah, maybe they are right. Maybe this is what I have to offer the world, how I look, because I've never been received this way until
Mm.
about anything else in my life other than my looks. And then obviously follow that up with them being like sexually assaulted. That just solidified for me even further. Okay, yeah, actually, I am just how I look and my body. Like that is all I have to offer. So I can see where for me, those seeds of feeling like I was not enough anywhere else other than how I look were planted at such a young age. And then things later on in life reaffirmed that. And I can absolutely look at that and go, of course, you were going to put all your attention in how you looked in your body
Mm.
and think that's the only way you can get acceptance and approval. Probably a really natural way of making sense of the world and yourself.
Wow. Isn't it so eye-opening when we reflect back the comments of one person and the snowball
Oh,
effect that that can have on someone?
and I remember when I had my implants removed and speaking to a certain person in my life about that. And them asking, like, why did you get them? Why did you get them removed? And me being like, God, this is my moment. This is my moment to like express myself and say all these things I've needed to say. So explained why I'd got them because of, not in huge amount of detail, but like I put a lot of my worth on how I looked and, and how I got them removed, partly because of health reasons, but largely because I wanted to move away from that and really just accept
Mm.
myself how I am and realize that looks is not everything for me. And you couldn't make this up, Katie. The response to that was, you're going to be all right because you've still got a pretty face. But I remember thinking, like,
You
I had
know,
to do
like
some
something is
deep
just
breaths.
so lost on someone, like
And
lost cause, this person.
in
Just
that moment,
incredible.
it made me think, do you know what? Like, I'm carving out a new way of seeing myself here.
Mhm.
That's what's important. Like, actually, I'd love it if you just got what I'd said. And
It literally didn't even process in the brain what
mm,
you were saying.
yeah, like the inner child in me is, I'm waiting for this moment where you're now going to validate everything I've said and make me
Yeah.
realize I am more than how I look. And that opportunity for that kind of repair there didn't come. And that could have really had
That
the
could have
opportunity
thrown you.
to really throw me for whatever reason. I think the whole process of getting the implants out was such a like a powerful experience for me in healing that actually in that moment I was like, it doesn't matter. Actually, I feel hurt that you didn't get what I was saying, but it also doesn't matter because I know what I'm saying here and I'm carving
Mm.
out this new way of viewing myself.
And
That's
isn't
what's
that
important.
like the whole point? The point of the story?
Yeah.
I feel like that's an excellent conclusion, Becca, because I feel like that's such a powerful place to conclude, isn't it?
Hopefully. I think it's helpful for some people to hear that. Would you, what do you feel's helped you the most? Anything that you would like encourage people to consider? Because I guess for me, some of the things that I found particularly helpful was, like I say, looking at what do I actually value in life and where am I actually seeking, where am I getting my self-worth? Because if they are misaligned, then that's perhaps an area of trying to realign them.
Yes. I would also say that something that helped me a lot through recovery that was a practice that was given to me by my coach at the time because I was so body focused, and I think a lot of us are when we struggle with body image and food, was practicing living in first person instead of third person. Like
Mm.
practicing seeing the world through my eyes versus how everyone around me was perceiving me. A lot of it was like, how do we find things outside of your body that are to do with your body that you can find enjoyment and that you can find connection and you can get creative and all this kind of stuff to find other parts of your world to build on. But also just even from the day to day of like how much time and energy I spent thinking about my body and how my body felt and what my body looked like from certain angles and how other people were observing me and taking me in. So practicing like focusing on what I was seeing and living through my own lens versus other people's. I found
Yeah.
that really helpful to start to separate from being so hyper focused on my body to allow me to even start to take steps to like, what's life outside of
Mm.
this?
I actually think it's a really nice exercise to help with exactly what we spoke about in terms of moving away from focusing your self-worth externally, what other
Mhm.
people think, to internally what you think. Really nice.
You are welcome.
Thanks, Katie. We'll end on that absolute
It's a high note.
gem of knowledge there, unless there's anything else you want to share, Katie.
No, I think I'm good. Feel good.
Good. Woo.
Thanks for listening, everyone.
Thanks for listening. As always, let us know what you thought in the comments below.
And we'll see you in a couple of weeks.
Bye.
Bye.